everyone. You saw the thumbnail, you read the title, you see what shirt I'm wearing. That's right, it's Tool 10,000 Days, which released April 28th, 2006, to mixed reviews. Fans of the album were quick to point out its similarities to Lateralis, seeing as it was made with some of the album's leftovers, while critics were quick to point out long run times, especially on certain tracks and interludes, but we will get there. Band members stay the same on this one, with Carey, Chancellor Jones, and Keenan respectively, and the overall mentality going into the album was mostly that on the fans' behalf, where they were just anticipating new music, whereas the band just wanted to take their time and reinvent themselves. So that's what this album ends up being. Disclaimer on my behalf, most of this is just my opinions, but I'll be sure to specify when I'm talking about my actual thoughts and beliefs, because there are some tracks on here that I genuinely want to critique certain aspects of, even if it's not the music, maybe it's the reception to the music, you know what I mean. And with that, let's get into it. Vicarious is basically just Stinkfist if it got made a decade later, and I don't feel like I'm making any grand statement with that. It's a shredding banger that has some meaningful lyrics and overall just a good open to the album. The simple riff at the beginning slowly being layered with drum hits, a rattling, and what sounds like a triangle before getting into the main verse is a really good opener, and it gives you a good expectation of the wide instrumentation on this album, something I like particularly. And once we get into the verse, we get another thing I like a lot about this album, which is the bass lines that accompany the verses. Typically it'll be the drum and guitar that are in the forefront, but the bass line takes a lot more of a prominent feature, and I like that on this album because it gives Chancellor something to do rather than just being the background guy you hear on every couple of songs. The opening lines, "Eyes on the TV, 'cause tragedy thrills me," could probably be the only two on the song, and you'd know what it's about. Yet Maynard continues anyways, going on to say in the first iteration of the chorus that it's no fun till someone dies. This clearly is a condemnation of humans and how we feel a need to watch people die, especially in mass media. While this came out in 2006, and at the time television was the only way you could really do this, since then the internet has boomed, and social media is a great place if you just want to see violence. And I think this is an interesting thing to critique, especially for the opener of a Tool song, as they have been historically a pretty violent band, and this condemnation doesn't necessarily go against that, as it's more about the perpetuation of violence in media rather than the necessity of it in certain circumstances. The dark and sinister atmosphere of the song continues as Maynard whispers, "You all feel the same, why can't we just admit it?" Which is another good point to make, especially given the argument at hand, but I think all of it falls away once you get to the final lines of the song, something they do a lot on this album. The instrumental is just fucking banging in the background, Carey sounds like he's losing his goddamn mind on the drums, and then Maynard just comes in just to fuck you up a little bit with "Vicariously I live while the whole world dies, much better you than I," which is just an amazing line, and then the drums and guitar just bang out, and then the song just ends, and it's perfect. Jambi is one of my least favorite songs in this album, but that's not to say it's bad, more just it's a grower rather than a shower. The shredding guitar and layered drums at the beginning prepare you for something high-paced and action-packed, only to give way to tribal drums that sound like bongos and Maynard singing in a rather normal voice. It's a weird intro, but I promise it makes sense once you get the larger context of the song and the album as a whole. My biggest gripe is the narrative of this song, as the first half is hard to tell what it's about, and then the second half is so fucking definitive that you literally don't need the first half. The first half is about Maynard giving away his thing as if he were to lose this individual, which, cool, you don't know who it's about. The second half, however, starts with the breakdown where he sings "Shine on forever, shine on benevolent sun, shine until the two become one," which is not only probably a callback to previous tracks, but also plants seeds for the rest of the album. This is then complemented by some of the final lines, such as "Breathe in union so as one survive, silence legion save your poison, silence legion stay out of my way," with the "way" being shouted as it lets the instrumental bang on like normal. I like the outro of this song. I just wish the first half had a little bit more oomph, considering the runtime of every track on this album ranges from like 5 to 11 minutes. I was just hoping for a bit more, but I still like it. Wings from Marie Part 1 is where we see the album take a more reflective and meditative approach, something I like but critics did not. The instrumental consists of a swirling effect and loose instrumentation throughout, only coming together once towards the end of the 6-minute runtime, which makes it sound more grandiose and anthemic, while also preparing you for the next track. Lyrically, Maynard is singing about his mother and her devotion to Christ, with lines like, "You believed in movements none could see, uncompromised," making it clear that she was not only devout, but someone that might be willing to argue about it, which is not what Maynard's about. If you look him up, he's actually quite the staunch atheist, and I like that this is him kind of taking a backseat with his own ideology and allowing his love and admiration for his mother to take the forefront. Lines like, "What do I say to all these ghouls tonight? She never told a lie, well, might have lived one. She never took a life, but she surely saved one," is a nice way to sum up her character, as even if she might have lived a lie as a devout Christian, she was a good person at heart, and that's what should matter. 10,000 Days refers to 3 different things, all of which of varying importance, but one of them is much more important to the song itself. Firstly, it refers to the approximate amount of time that it takes Saturn to rotate the Sun. Secondly, it refers to a transformation Maynard himself describes taking place at around 28 to 29 years old. And thirdly, the one that pertains to the song we're about to discuss is the amount of time that Maynard's mother spent paralyzed after suffering a cerebral hemorrhage when he was 11. This song is heavy, so like, if you don't want to talk about heavy shit, then skedaddle now, I guess. Instrumentally, the song opens with fast strumming as a storm brews in the background, giving way to Maynard's lyrics about Christianity, such as, "Listen to the tales as we all rationalize our way into the arms of the Savior," which makes it pretty clear that Maynard himself isn't trying to defend Christianity, but he is willing to defend his mother with lines such as, "None of them even hold a candle up to you. Blinded by choice, these hypocrites won't see," which is interesting because he's defending his mother and stating that she's a better Christian, saying that choice blinds people from seeing something in Christianity, and that Christians genuinely don't see something that his mother did. Another funny line on the song that I personally like is, "I only pray heaven knows when to lift you out," which is funny only because I like the idea that Maynard only prayed once in his entire life, and that was for his mother, which, yeah, that's a very nice and sentimental thing to say, and I genuinely think that's probably the truth. The song then builds to a near divine level towards the halfway point, as Maynard laments in his mother's perspective, "I've come home now, fetch me the Spirit, the Son, and the Father, tell them their pillar of faith has ascended, it's time now, my time now, give me my wings," all while this like harp thing plays in the background. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it doesn't matter. The emotional resonance of this moment is probably the strongest in any Tool song, and I'm saying this as the person with a tattoo of theirs, so like, I mean it when I say it. I love the emotion that Maynard manages to convey, especially seeing as he typically sings in a much more androgynous and not monotone, but less caring way. He typically sings in a more angry and aggressive way, so hearing him sing about something he's truly passionate about is a nice change of pace. Even after the pure bliss that is the instrumental on this track and Maynard's rather punctual plea for his mother's ascension, he continues with the lines, "Please forgive this bold suggestion. Should you see your maker's face tonight, tell him I never lived a lie, never took a life, but surely saved one," which is such a punctual line. I don't even want to like touch it, but like I'm going to, because that's what I do on these videos. I love that this isn't about Christianity. Something I've seen a lot of people get wrong, especially Christian conservative MAGA fucking weirdos, is that they think this song is like, yay, Christianity, but that's not what this is about. It's, yay, Maynard's mom was a really good person and loved him a lot, and he recognizes that. He recognizes that even despite Christianity being such a fucking hellhole, that at least his mother was a good person. And that's kind of the point. Like, you know, who gives a shit about religion? Just like be a good person. You don't need a book to tell you that, do you? I hope not. You know who else does that? Jordan Peterson fans. And they're stinky motherfuckers. Well, they're also Christian too, so I guess the two books tell them what to do. The Pot is the much needed cleanser after the emotionally dense duology we just went through, as well as just being a sonically unique song on the album, which is just, nice to have every once in a while. If you couldn't tell based off the title, this song is about weed, though it's not exclusively about it, nor is it necessarily a condemnation of the drug, but we'll get into that. Opening lines, "Who are you to wave your finger, you must have been out your head," are not only sung very well, but are also actually echoes of the same lines. If you listen closely enough with headphones in, you can hear him repeating the lines and a few others throughout the song, which is a nice touch. Another nice touch is the bass line on the verses, which are not only groovy as fucking hell, but are then layered with reverb heavy guitar and Danny going fucking insane on the drums, which is just such a nice combo. This song is such a banger, and it's honestly a very danceable song, which is weird and probably not what they meant, but it's what we get, and I love it. While you could easily take the song as a groovy banger and leave it at that, the narrative depth to the song is something of note as well. Lines such as "foot and mouth and head up ass, so what you talking about" are very funny and are really goofy with his Canadian accent, but pairing them with other lines such as "steal, borrow, reefer, save your shady inference," and "kangaroo be stoned, he's as guilty as the government," makes you realize that there's a deeper connotation in all of this. He's talking about the hypocrisy of drug culture and the war on drugs, and how governments, around the world have always demonized and criminalized drugs despite their rather silly nature. When he's talking about pissing all over the kettle, he's not necessarily saying it in the worst way possible. He's just saying that, it's stupid. It's all stupid. There's no point in any of this hypocrisy and any of this condemnation because everyone does drugs. Everyone knows everyone does drugs, and yet we still have the same meaningless arguments. This is most excellently put together in the final line. "Your ball's deep in muddy water. Ganja, please. You must have been out your mind," with mine being sung perfectly like always. The line is a good encapsulation of the entire message, which is basically just "fuck you, hypocrites, shut up and stay in your own fucking lane," which I agree with to a staggering degree. Pipe and Conjuring is a minute-long interlude consisting of some chants, shouts, and yells, all of which are in a language that I couldn't fucking tell you what it is. That's most likely because it's from the Lipan Apache, who the song is named after. I can't tell you because there's no translation, but I'm assuming it's something to do with descending into a psychedelic trip, not only because this is the fan theory that I found on the subreddit for Tool, but because it makes the most sense in the context of the next two tracks. Lost Keys, Blame Hoffman is an intro to the next track, consisting mostly of a guitar line and a synth underneath it, both giving way to a hospital skit, something we never see in Tool, between a nurse and a doctor discussing a man who stumbled in with apparently no name and no obvious injury. Hoffman is most likely in reference to Albert Hoffman, the man who discovered what we now know as synthesized LSD, so you get an idea of what the next track is, though it's not actually about LSD. And with the intros out of the way, we can now get to probably my favorite song on the album. Actually, it's not a probably, it is my favorite song on the album, Rosetta Stoned. Now, contrary to what I see online, this song isn't about LSD. I don't know why people think that, maybe because of the Blame Hoffman thing, but this song is literally about DMT, as he says it in the first two lines. I don't know why people get this wrong so much, but I really want to clarify before we get into things. This song is 11 minutes long with some of the most complex and intricate instrumentation Tool has ever put out, so I'm going to talk about the instrumentation in one go, and then we're going to do the narrative in the next, just to keep things nice and simple for everyone. The instrumentation on this track begins with the guitar shredding from Lost Keys pouring into Maynard's lyrics as he says with a very thick drawl, "Already then, picture this if you will," in response to the doctor asking him what had happened in the skit. This then leads into the vicious shredding drums and guitar as Maynard fast-paced spitballs the entire story. And I mean, he fucking spitballs the entire thing in about a minute, and the rest of the song is completely something else. It's insane how he does it, and the instrumentation keeps pace the whole time. Not only this, but there are multiple breaks in the song, each one allowing a new variation to occur. The first allows a synth to take place, this weird kind of like buzz, I think, if I'm not remembering it incorrectly. The second allows this like treble drum that kind of sounds like a bongo to come in. It's weird and it's kooky. The percussion and effects on this song are, like I just said, weird and kooky, but that fits the theme and atmosphere very well. Not only this, but the section where Maynard is just moaning high in the background is really good, as it's just an instrumental breakdown that stretches like 2 fucking minutes. It's insane. Not only this, but it acts like every other Tool song as the instrumentation builds and builds and builds and builds, and it does it for the entire 11 minutes. I truly cannot explain how good this song is, because every instrument gets a chance to shine, even the weird shit they end up using. It's a great song, and I can't describe the instrumentation in words enough because it's so much in so much time. Like, it's not a lot in a little or a lot with a little, it's a lot with a lot. It's good. That's what I'm saying. You should listen to it. Now talk about the lyrics. You know, in high school, when your teacher tells you not to read things off the paper when you're giving a speech in front of the entire class, despite the fact that no one in their fucking right mind memorized the entirety of what they wrote down on a 3-page paper? I'm going to be doing that because I don't remember what I wrote on the entire 6 pages of this script, and I haven't been reading verbatim for that much of this anyway, so this is my one chance to do so. Maynard begins his story by telling us it's 2 in the morning and he's just doing yoga outside Area 51 when a banana-shaped spaceship lands right in front of him. Obviously, he has a hard time with this, yelping holy fucking shit in the funniest voice. He then describes the X-File being in immense detail, gives himself an L. Ron Hubbard reference, and pisses his pants. He then blames the chemist who made the DMT for got me seeing E motherfucking T. After a quick snack and fetal spooning that I forgot to mention, E.T. revealed to me my singular purpose, and then it gives him his singular purpose. Maynard is meant to deliver the message of the end times to humanity, the chosen one. His response is of epic proportions. Me? The chosen one? They chose me, and I didn't graduate from fucking high school? While everything up to this point has been shits and giggles, things take a turn at the beginning of the next verse, where Maynard tones down his voice, stating, "You looked right through me with somniferous almond eyes, don't even know what that means, must remember to write it down." He continues to describe the events, stating, "See, they took me by the hand and invited me right in, then they showed me something I don't even know where to begin." However, he states shortly after, "Can't remember what they said, goddamn shit the bed." This is just the first half of the song. It's a long song. It's a lot to talk about. Forgive me if I stutter a few times. We've caught up both the lyrics and instrumental. The lyrics of shit the bed then lead into the high section, which now lead to where we're at. Now we've established the narrative of the song. He's been told by E motherfucking T himself that he is the chosen one, the one meant to tell humanity of its great downfall. And his response to this information is stellar. The breakdown is insane, and the lyrics, perfect, as I will tell you them. Overwhelmed as one would be if placed in my position, such a heavy burden now to be the one, born to bear and bring to all the details of our ending, to write it all down for the world to see, which is a stellar pair of lines. I love it. It encapsulates the entire song in such a cohesive way, and the way he says it is so, I don't even know what to call it. It's just that good. He then follows it up with the most reassuring of statements. "But I forgot my pen, shit the bed again, typical." This then leads right into the outro with the repeated "don't know," enforcing the idea that he really did shit the bed here. Maybe in a metaphorical sense, maybe in a literal sense, who cares? He forgot, and that's the important part. Now, I've seen a lot of discourse around this song, particularly about how this is kind of like flaming Tool fans for thinking that Maynard had some like insane fucking theory to the end of the world, or like how humans should be as like species. I disagree to a degree. I think that Maynard has a lot of concepts and a lot of ideas on how humanity should be and the end of the world and stuff like that. And I am not exactly sold on the whole like E.T. showed up in a banana shaped spaceship, but you gotta admit that there is a level of detail here that I don't really see elsewhere, especially if you're talking about E.T. sightings. And that could just be Maynard just kind of flexing his writing ability, but I think it's a little bit more than that because he never does weird, stupid shit like this. It's always very calculated. This is all to say, I don't really have an opinion on this song. I just think it's really cool and it makes me very, I don't know, upset to a degree that the fan base is so collectively like stumped on it that they've just agreed that this is another fuck you song from Maynard. But there's obviously so much more to it, and it's a shame that no one really does that. And I'm trying to at least provoke some thought about it with this long rambling about it. So yeah. Intention is the necessary cooldown after the juggernaut known as Rosetta Stone, allowing unintelligible whispers to be layered with light bongo drums and guitar strums, and keeping Maynard in the center. His lyrics of Pure as We Begin, Moved by Will Alone, makes it feel ethereal, even though he's not really describing anything very esoteric. Sure, the idea of moving through Will Alone and moving for Will Alone is very metaphysical. The actual song is mostly just describing the primitive lifestyle of primitive humans, the evolution that we have taken, though the violence that is displayed is very crucial to the messaging of the next track. While the criticisms against this song are rather unwavering given the fact that it's an 8-minute interlude basically, I do think the track holds some significant value in its more meditative and reflective purposes, as well as just being an interesting detour sonically from what we've seen so far. Right in 2 is the most definitive track on the album, not only because it ties together concepts and themes from previous tracks, but because the message itself is so interesting and dense. The slow and mellow guitar leads at the beginning give way to Maynard's lyrics perfectly. The opening lines of Angels on the Sideline, puzzled and amused, setting the scene rather perfectly for how the song sounds, in my opinion. The line, "Why did Father give these humans free will?" encapsulates the entire purpose of this song and juxtaposed it with other tracks on the album. The entire concept of this album is perspective and the multifaceted aspects at which we view things. This is no different. This is another example of the band questioning human nature and our need for violence and the brutalization of others. This continues later into the song, but I really think it's a good showcase of this, and I want to talk about that. This song is such a staple of that whole, like, we can just be better mentality, and I really do appreciate that they go the length to do so. Vicarious is a good showcase of it, sure. Jambi mentioned it, sure. 10,000 Days and that duology is a good way to showcase the strength and admiration one can have for a loved one. But this is the definitive, we must do better. We have been made to do better. Why aren't we? And I really like that messaging. The line, monkey killing monkey over pieces of the ground, may sound funny at first, sure, but it's a genuine critique of how we live. We kill each other over meaningless things very often if you look at the news or, I don't know, human history as a whole. So it's a good critique to make, and one that is important enough to be made, something we should be questioning ourselves about. The way the title of the track works and the lyrics is amazing as well, with lines like, "And where there's one, they're bound to divide right in two," makes it perfect. It encapsulates the whole concept in one go, and you don't really need to explain it. However, he continues to do so. The line, "Repugnant is a creature who would squander the ability to lift an eye to heaven," conscious of his fleeting time here isn't just a like haha we're all stupid. It's genuinely the concept of us being conscious of our own existence, what I was talking about in my previous video. Our ability to perceive ourselves as people and perceive others as people with independent thought and emotion. It's an interesting concept, and I love that this song touches on it so viscerally and head on, as I feel like a lot of other media typically tends to tiptoe around the idea of human consciousness, perspective, and ideology, and we allow people to make too many, I don't know, jumps and leaps and bounds in this concept, where we need to ground it in ourselves and each other. That's the way you teach people things, not by giving them over expanding ideas and then just letting them make their own conclusions, because a lot of people can't do that. If they're not aware of how other people feel and that they might feel in a similar way to them, then of course it's not going to work. That would never work. Instead, we need to have a sort of relation to one another. And that's what I like about this song, is that it draws upon that at a very visceral way. Not only that, but the sound of this song is insane. Like, the instrumentation throughout is great, and after the 4-minute mark, there's like a 2-minute long breakdown just for the fun of it, and the song isn't even over at that point. It's great. It's a great song. The concepts are insane, the instrumental is good, and it's just, it's a perfect closer. And yet, it's not. It's not even the closer. Vigenti Trace, I hope I said that right, is the Latin way to say 23. I don't know what exactly that's supposed to mean. I saw one fan theory that I thought was kind of weird that was supposed to be like it's the 23 chromosomes Maynard got from his mother, which maybe if you really want to like tie in the Onima stuff to this album, but I don't really think the title of this particular track means much, as even the lyrics, which are sung in this demonic Latin voice, are about ascension and power, and they're not even a finished quote, so I'm not really pulling those into any major concept. The sound of this song is a swirling effect with some discordant sounds here and there, and the way I envision it is the spiral. This is something talked about on Lateralis, which I will talk about whenever I review that album, which might be a while because I feel like I'd need a PhD to do so, but it feels very similar to what that album represents, so it might have something to do with that. And with that, 10,000 Days. This album has been a difficult one to understand, to put it lightly. The concepts are insane and overarching and yet interwoven with each other. It's just, it all comes together really well. I can't describe enough of them in words because the words I'm using are simply too simple and basic to really describe the full grasp of the things being talked about. The entire message of this album is that humanity has too many perspectives, too many conflicting narratives, and we need to simplify things. We need to streamline things. We need to become one again, a unified force. But we never would do that because we're human and it's literally in our nature to not do that. We like to see people as the other, and we like to portray ourselves as the righteous individual in almost every conflict. So human nature might not ever allow for such unification, but if it were to happen, I assume it would be somewhat utopian, seeing as everything about people coming together usually ends up that way. But that's just a guess. I hope you liked the video. If you did, like it. If you liked it a lot, please subscribe. I'm trying to get monetized. If you want to participate in the poll about this video, not about this video, about the next video, then Instagram, it'll be somewhere on here, probably the link too. And yeah, have a good day.